When police officers Stephen Ballett and Jeremy McCord entered the Guy family home on November 28, 2016, the first thing they noticed was an unpleasant smell and extreme heat. Food was on the floor, and a dog was barking incessantly upstairs. Something must have happened here. The longer they look around the house, the more uncomfortable they feel. When they come to the kitchen, they find the source of the heat. The oven and stove are on. On one of the plates is a large pot in which something seems to be cooking. At this point, no one suspects what a horror is hidden in it. Slowly and quietly, they go up the stairs to the upper floor and search the rooms until suddenly one of the investigators stops abruptly. The Guy family from Tennessee included Joel, Lisa, Joel Jr., Shandice, Michelle, and Angela. 61-year-old Joel Guy Sr. worked as a designer in pipeline construction and his wife Lisa as an accountant. Joel had 3 daughters from his first marriage, Shandice, Michelle, and Angela. He and his ex-wife divorced a year after the twins, Michelle and Angela, were born. 2 years later, he met Lisa. Joel's daughters got along very well with Lisa. She became a second mother to them. They talked to her every day, and the young women wanted to become as warm and loving as Lisa. When Michelle and her boyfriend got engaged, they even got Lisa's engagement ring. But Lisa and Joel Sr. also had a child together. Joel Jr. was born in 1988 and seemed like a happy child. In 2006, he graduated from the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and Arts. After graduating, Joel Jr. attended the George Washington University for 1 semester and then transferred to Louisiana State University, where he said he was training to become a plastic surgeon. Joel was a loner from a young age. He made no effort to develop friendships or relationships, and his relationship with his family members was also rather cool and distant. But that didn't change the fact that Lisa adored her son. She did everything for him and did her best to ensure that her only son could lead a happy life. She paid for all of his studies, his meals, and later his apartment in Louisiana. She had also bought Joel a car and paid every bill he presented to her. She spent her entire salary from her accounting job on her son. Joel was not particularly grateful for this. Since he had been living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, he had lived even more reclusively than before. He hadn't told anyone his address except his parents, not even his half-sister. He hated visitors and had no friends. He only went to his family when absolutely necessary. He spent the whole day at the PC or watching movies. He only used his studies to be able to show his parents something. He didn't bother studying for the exams and barely attended lectures. Everyone who knew him described him as strange and unfriendly. But that didn't change Lisa's boundless love for her son. Nevertheless, she had to make a momentous decision in 2016. On November 24, 2016, the Guy family celebrated Thanksgiving. Every year, they gathered at the family home, prepared the meal together, ate, and talked. This year, all family members had gathered again, and there was a contemplative atmosphere at the annual turkey dinner. Lisa finally spoke up and said that she had something to announce. Her husband Joel had been retired for several years, and she would now give up her job too. Together, they wanted to sell their house in Knoxville and move to Surgoinsville. Joel Sr.'s mother had passed away a few months ago, and her huge house was now empty. They wanted to spend their retirement in this rural and beautiful area. Joel Sr.'s daughters were very happy for them. Joel Jr. also seemed pleased with his parents' decision. Soon, they resumed their normal conversations and had a nice Thanksgiving evening. Michelle, in particular, was surprised at her half-brother's good mood. Usually, Joel Jr. would retreat to a room by himself during the festivities and want nothing to do with the others. But this year was different. Joel fooled around with them and played with Michelle's young children, even giving them toys from his own childhood. Overall, her brother behaved even stranger than usual. This time, instead of a suitcase, he only had plastic bags with him, in which he had put all his belongings. And he seemed to be following them around. She said later that she sometimes turned around and he was just standing behind her. Nevertheless, the good mood did not change, and the family had a nice evening together. The next day, the three daughters and their families said goodbye. Joel Jr., however, decided to stay a few days longer. Shandice's birthday was on November 27th. To her surprise, her parents didn't congratulate her. The next day, she told her sisters about it and asked if she had done something wrong and if they were mad at her. Michelle and Angela knew nothing about it and were immediately worried about Lisa and her father. So Michelle announced that she would stop by to see them that evening. But the police got there first. That morning, Lisa's boss had wondered about her absence. Lisa was always reliable and always called in when she couldn't come in. To get to the bottom of the matter, she called the police and asked them to check on her. Soon after, police officers Stephen Ballard and Jeremy McCord arrived at the beautiful house on Golden View Lane. At first glance, it appeared quiet and deserted. A for sale sign was already in the yard. Lisa and Joel apparently wanted to implement their plans quickly. At first, everything seemed normal to the officers, but when they rang the doorbell, no one answered. Through the glass in the front door, however, they could see several shopping bags on the floor. These contained perishable food items such as sausage and ice cream. Everything indicated that someone must be at home. The police officers climbed over a fence and looked around at the back door. They noticed that the doorknob was missing, so they could look through the keyhole. They couldn't see anything out of the ordinary, but they were met with a strange smell and stifling heat. A dog in the house barked the whole time. The longer they stayed there and looked around, the more uncomfortable they became. Something was wrong here. But it was not exactly clear what had happened. After a closer look, the investigators noticed that the doorknob of the back door had been unscrewed and mounted on the front door, presumably to make it more difficult to access the house. Finally, one of the police officers smashed one of the car windows and accessed the garage opener that was in the car. Through the garage, the officers gained access to the house. There was already a strong smell of chemicals in the garage. The further they penetrated into the house, the more unbearable the heat became. The once cozy house felt like a sauna and left an even more oppressive feeling with every step. The family's shopping was untouched in the hallway. Lisa and Joel Sr.'s wallets were lying on a table. Next to it were a sledgehammer and several long guns. On the floor were numerous sheets, many cloths, and several canisters of bleach. The police officers had no idea what it all meant, but they prepared themselves for the worst. However, the reality probably exceeded their worst fears. Next to the back door, they found a plugged-in hairdryer and a running dehumidifier. In the kitchen, they finally found the source of the heat. Both the oven and the stove itself were on. On one of the burners was a large pot in which something was cooking. At this point, the investigators did not yet look inside. That happened much later, but they will probably never forget the sight inside. In the pot was the severed head of Lisa Guy, which had been cooking for 2 days. Her face had meanwhile detached itself from the skull and was floating on the surface of the water. Unsuspecting, the investigators made their way to the upper floor. There was smeared blood on the wall and individual drops on the stairs. The family dog barked louder and louder. At this point, he had been locked in the house's cleaning room without food or water for 2 days. When they reached the top floor, there was more blood on the floor. They also discovered a pair of bloody scissors and several cloths and blankets. As they walked down the hallway, they suddenly came across human body parts. In one room were the severed hands of Joel Guy Sr. When they entered the bathroom shortly thereafter, the full extent of the crime became clear. The dismembered bodies of Lisa and Joel Guy Sr. were lying in 2 large blue plastic tubs. Someone had tried to dissolve them in acid. The floor below was covered with plastic sheeting. Garbage bags and bleach were found next to the tubs, and a knife, presumably the murder weapon, was in the sink. Investigators immediately requested backup, and in the next few hours, the Guy family home was turned upside down. Lisa and Joel's bodies showed numerous stab wounds. Due to the acid, they could no longer be counted accurately. In the end, Joel had at least 42 and Lisa 31 injuries from a sharp object. They had both tried to fight off their attacker. In an open suitcase, investigators found a note with the name and address of a hardware store in Louisiana, as well as a note about drain cleaner. They also found a backpack with a notebook inside. In it, Joel Guy Jr. described in detail his plan to murder his parents. He had even made a list so as not to forget anything.
Get a carving knife. Get a murder knife. Quiet. Several. To make small pieces. Get a sledgehammer. Smash bones. Bring a blender and meat grinder. Mince the meat. Get bleach. Denature proteins. Get plastic buckets for the disposal process. It doesn't matter where they're taken care of. Just get rid of the bloody stains. Evidence of time of death. Not the mattress or couch. Get rid of the bodies in the house. Their DNA and mine are already there. Open the doggy door to allow the dog access. Flush the toilet. No garbage. No burglar disposal. Get a plastic plan for disposal. Get hollow point bullets. Just in case you are seen buying bullets. Just use the gun from the computer room. Check for bullets. Last resort. He's not alive anymore to claim her half of the insurance money. Money. All mine. Flood the house to cover up forensic evidence. Turn the heat as possible. Speeds decomposition. Bleach reacts with luminol just like blood. Wipe area with bleach. Large sprayer. Caustic. Garbage compactor. Body provides time of death. Alibi. No need to get rid of the body if there is no forensic evidence on the body. No fingerprints and DNA.
The crime was reconstructed with the evidence and these notes as follows. On November 26th, Joel Jr. attacked his father in the second-floor gym of the house. His mother was out shopping at the time. The room showed signs of a struggle, with blood on the walls and the blinds torn. After killing his father, he cut off his clothes and placed them, along with 2 large knives and his blood-stained cigarette case nearby. When Lisa came home, she put her shopping at the bottom of the stairs. On the first floor, she was attacked by Joel and also killed. After the deed, he chopped up the bodies and put the individual parts in the large blue plastic tubs. He left only Joel Sr.'s hands in the gym and tore Lisa's head off her body and carried it downstairs to the kitchen. There, he boiled it in a large pot on the stove. He put the remaining body parts in acid. He had cut a large gash in the torsos of both of them so that the acid would dissolve them faster. But Joel's original plan didn't work out. His notes revealed that he wanted to frame his father for the murder and make it look like he had killed himself. But when he attacked his father, Joel Jr. suffered multiple cuts to his hands. Apparently, his father had been able to take the knife from him briefly. This meant that Joel Jr. was now forced to tend to his cuts first. At 3:30 p.m. on November 26th, he was seen at Walmart, where he bought bandages and ointment, as well as some chemicals. He then returned to his parents' house to continue covering his tracks. But one of the cuts was deeper than he had thought, so Joel went back to Baton Rouge the next morning to have his wounds treated at the student clinic. The purpose of the switched-on stove was not to ignite the house and thus destroy all traces. The low setting wouldn't have been strong enough for that anyway. Rather, the heat was probably supposed to help the bodies decompose faster in the acid. Joel wanted to come back later and erase the remaining clues, but the police had foiled his plan. And there were even more clues that pointed to Joel Jr. as the culprit. For one thing, his parents had taken out a $500,000 life insurance policy that would pay out to him after their deaths. This was obviously the money Joel mentioned in his notes. And on November 7th, he was seen on surveillance footage buying hydrochloric acid and hydrogen peroxide at Ace Hardware in Napoleonville. On November 18th, he was also filmed buying a bleach sprayer, an extension cord, and a timer at Home Depot. A day later, he was seen buying a large knife, and on November 21st, he purchased the large blue plastic tubs at Walmart. The FBI found all of this out after observing him for a few days, looking for evidence. When there was no longer any doubt that he was the culprit, Joel Jr. was finally arrested. A meat grinder was found in his car, and further evidence linking him to the murders was found in his apartment. Joel Guy Jr. pleaded not guilty, but requested the death penalty in the event that he was convicted. Joel's lawyers were unable to provide sufficient evidence of his innocence. Joel himself stated that he did not feel sufficiently valued and supported by his parents. After only 4 days, Joel Guy Jr. was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Since he had so badly mutilated his parents' bodies, he was also found guilty of corpse abuse in addition to murder. He will probably no longer receive the death penalty, which he had requested. And that brings us to the end of today's video. I won't forget the recording from the house and the image of the pot boiling in Lisa's head anytime soon. It's hard to imagine how someone could bring themselves to kill their own parents. Joel's statement that his parents didn't support him enough makes me really angry. His mother always loved him unconditionally, accepted his unfriendly and withdrawn nature, and gave him all her money throughout his life. When he killed his parents, Joel was 28 years old and had never had to earn money himself. But otherwise, Lisa and Joel Sr. seemed like loving parents who only wanted the best for their son. Of course, we don't know if it was really different, but I still think the claim that his parents didn't support him is completely unfounded. Or do you see it differently? I'm curious to hear your opinion on the case. If you liked the video, please like it, comment on it, and subscribe. Also, activate the bell. That really helps the channel a lot. This way, the video gets a lot of interaction shortly after uploading, which increases the likelihood that the YouTube algorithm will suggest the video to people who have not yet subscribed to the channel. Thank you very much in advance, and thank you for watching. Until the next video, ciao.